let's bring it back to where we started. Get a little recap on the whole project here. Just get one more look on that other side. This is kind of the ugly area, but you know, it got the job done. Got the job done. All right, well, I've got it all measured and in place. Measured a bunch of different areas to try to get it as centered as possible, and I think I've done a good job on that. He is related to Paul Bunyan. it's been quite a while since I've done this, but I kind of started working on the truck this weekend and didn't grab the camera. Some of that was on purpose, some of it I forgot. But what you can't see here is the brake booster is in place and looks like it did the last time you saw it. But what you didn't see is when I was probably 18 or 19 years old, when I did my first V8 swap in this truck, I tried to cut some corners or try to make things work like a different brake booster because I had a set of headers that kind of got in the way. Long story short, I wound up cutting the firewall so I could try to get the brake booster set back or something. I don't exactly remember what I did. And ever since then, it hasn't, it's kind of had a hole in the firewall. When I put it back together after sitting for 19 years or however many years it was sitting, I did pull a piece off the parts truck and sandwich it between the firewall and the factory brake booster. So I just cut out the mounting surface on the other truck, put it in between there, and kind of went with it. But what I've recently realized, especially looking at the other truck out there, is that the firewall is a point of structure for the brake booster, brake pedal, all that assembly. It goes through the firewall into a bracket, and that bracket basically triangulates to the firewall. So I've kind of had a loose brake setup for a little while, which seems a little scary. Luckily it was tied to the bracket on the inside, and it had some rigidity. But one of the things that I was messing with this weekend is I was able to grab onto this brake booster and move it. That's no longer the case. I cut the jarred mess out that I created when I was 17 or 19 or whatever, and I welded in that that piece from the parts truck, so the firewall is now one again. It's not pretty. It got the job done. It's behind the brake booster. You can't see it, but it is integral, and we're good to go with that now. So what I'm working on the rest of today, or at least this evening, is I'm trying to get brackets made for the emergency brake on the 8.8. So you can see here, I have the emergency brake cable that goes to the lever that moves the drums underneath the disc which operates the emergency brake. Well, I have these cables that are from the Dakota, and these are the new emergency brake cables from the Explorer. Long story short, I got way too much cable here, so that's not gonna work. Additionally, I need to find a way to secure this, hopefully you guys can see that, secure this so that it's not pulling on the sheathing when it's pulling on the cable. So I have found a way to do that. So let me show you what I did. I think it's gonna work out pretty good. So what I did is I went to Home Depot and I bought a few things. One of these things is this, I call it mounting channel. There's a name for it, I just can't think of it. And I cut out a section of tubing. The section of tubing looks like this, where you have 3 long holes on one side and then elongated and not elongated on the other side. Then I also bought this piece of sheet metal at Home Depot, which is pretty thick. I want to say it's like 18 or 16 gauge thick, and I cut some ends off of it. I got 2 more to do, but let me show you the end result of that is this. So I will go show you guys how this works. All I did was weld the pieces on the end there, and I ground them down because of a clearance issue that I had, but I'll show you how all this is going to work. If you look right here, you'll see 2 holes that I drilled, and I'm going to take this center, throw the cable in it, and what it's going to do after I put some spacers on the back of this, it's going to allow me to bolt this in place. Slides over the collar on the cable, and then it's going to hang out right there If I can find the nut. Here it is. So once I bolt another bolt in there, whoop, this is going to prevent the sheathing from moving when we pull the cable. So I got one more of these to make. I'll make it here in a second. But I think this is going to work out pretty good. Alright, the second one is done. I don't know if you guys saw me there, but I didn't like the first weld I did on this side, so I ground it all off and welded it again, and I'm happier with it. Still not extremely pretty, but I liked my technique better that time. The bottom weld is a little thicker, so I was messing with settings, and this is the perfect kind of project where it's an inconspicuous part that no one will see to kind of practice this kind of stuff. Obviously I need to get more of this type of metal and just start playing with it and figuring it out, learning settings and techniques and things to that extent. But you know, this stuff it holds, you know, it holds when I throw it in the vise, if I can do that here. You know, it's not gonna break, and for the amount of stress that I'm gonna be putting on it, should be just fine. So I'll get this all cleaned up, and then we'll get it all mounted, and I'll show you what we're gonna do next after I have these mounted. So this is the outside of the frame. I do realize that I do not have the bracket that hangs on for the gas tank bracket, which is this right here. And I definitely realize I'm gonna have to drill holes through that as well, because these are the carriage bolts that hold that on. So that'll be going right here, but it's not too big of a deal to bolt that in place, then drill these two holes on. But here's the money side of it, and it looks good. And I'll show you what we're gonna do with the cable tomorrow or later on in the week, and that'll wrap up the emergency brake and make it work pretty good. My only other concern is it's real tight right here to the wheel. I'll have to figure something out to make sure that doesn't get up in the wheel, because that could be bad for sure. But I'm liking it. I got the other one painted over here. Looks good. I'm gonna paint this one and call it a night. But I'm very happy and pleased with the way that those things are going. So, progress. Shock should be here tomorrow. Can't wait to do that. And then it's on to the other stuff. No more rear end stuff, I hope. We're on the home stretch, thank God. I'm ready to be done with this project. So now that I have all of the brackets made and in place, look, came out really nice. I showed you guys that yesterday, I believe. Now this cable right here that goes down the frame rail into that bracket right there, little triangle, over here to the adjustable bracket, over here to this side, I'm gonna pull out because it's too long. But I do have another cable to trim, so let me pull this out, and that's gonna give me an idea on how we're gonna make this happen. So I'll get under there and I'll show you what the plan is. Are you ready? All right. So again, might be a little hard to see. I think you can see. This is the frame mount for the e-brake cable, which is right here. This e-brake cable goes into the truck, and it's using this cable right here to pull. Well, it's too long, like I said, so we're going to rectify that. Now, I can pull the cable off there kind of easily, but there's some metal clips, I guess you could call them, that are right here that I need to figure out how to get by. And I don't exactly know how, but I can pull this adapter off, I think. Sometimes light can really help things, and there's a bigger hole right there in that loop, so it'll come right out. So anyway, it's all out. It's on the ground here. Now I got to get it out of there, which I think I'm going to have to back this bolt all the way out to get it out. Not a huge deal. So I'll do that, and that should allow me to pull this guy out of here. Here we go. Sweet. So we got it all laid out here, and here, this little guy right here, and stuff in that bag. We are going to replace this cable, the old one, with this one here, and a couple of these clamps. It's really not more difficult than that, except I need to get this in place first, and then get it all routed, measure, cut it, mount this, and we'll be good to go. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get the tools that I need, get under there, and we'll mount this side first, and then go from there. So this is how this process is going to go down. I've got to put 2 clamps on this, and in at least an inch or so apart and in opposite directions. So I'm going to start with this clamp here, which I just lost. I'm just gonna gotta get the man, it's gonna be tough. You know what I can do? I can start it here first. So I'm just start it on the cable so I have the nuts on it. There we go. These aren't real difficult. I'm just putting both nuts on first so they stay in place. I'm gonna take my 1/8 inch cable and I'm gonna route it through both of these guys like so. Then I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this guy tightened down in place. So this side will need to go the other way if I can get it to turn. Don't know if I can. That's a good point. So I give myself enough room. Yep, gonna be able to do that. So I'm gonna snug the first one down because I'm probably gonna have to take this off so I can, after I measure how long it needs to be. There we go. Oh yeah. I think that's gonna work nice. Perfect. Now, watch me run through the other two cables. I don't know if y'all can see that whole thing, but I put the anchor back in place, and I'm gonna run through the guides like it was already ran. One there. Bingo. Through the swedge, or I don't know what you call it. We'll say the fair lead maybe. Then, since I don't have an end on it, I can run it through this guy. I've ran this nut up about 3/4 of the way, so we have this much adjustment if we need it in the future. Sweet. So now, through the guide on this side, and it's long on purpose. Bingo. And now we measure where we need to cut it. And now we measure where we need to cut it over here, which I'm gonna have to get something to mark that because I don't have it on me right now. Okie dokie. Let's mark it. And now I gotta figure out how to cut it. And now we can take it out and figure it out from there. Alright, the best way that I found to cut it is with a couple tin snips. I'll try to cut it right in the middle of that line there. There we go. It's not a bad cut. Came out pretty good. Alright, let's get back under it, get the other clamps on it. And then, yeah, kind of simple. Not a big deal. Alright, here is the final product. Bracket, cables. This is the cable clamps tied to the factory Ford Explorer clamp. I ran it around in the factory Dakota points into the adjuster right there, over to the actual cable that comes from the pedal, back through the guide onto this side with a couple more cable clamps, at least 1 inch apart, opposite directions. At least 1 inch apart, opposite directions on both sides. At least that's what a couple friends told me, and I think we're good. So I'm gonna need to test it now, and might have to jack the truck up to do that. Let's see what we're working with here. Stop. More adjustment. But I think I can adjust down here. You're kind of hitting. So they're working. They definitely need some adjustment. Might need to shorten up that cable just a little bit, which I can do still, and we'll go from there. Well, the concept is good. I just don't have enough pull to get it done. I can feel more tension. I've got more adjustability, and it is somewhat working now. Maybe a little bit more adjustment it'll work, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, it's...
Whoa.
Is that it?
Oh, no.
Yeah. So it's starting to grab. So maybe some more adjustment on the drums. I don't know. I got some more adjustments to make. I adjusted the cable some because I realized the pedal wasn't all the way down when I made the first adjustment, but that's okay. It's somewhat working. I'm gonna go ahead and call that a somewhat win for now and come back to it at a later date. But let's put the final piece on the truck to get this project done for the rear end swap. And that's over here. And obviously, talked about it earlier, the Calvert Racing 9-way adjustable rear shocks. So I got all the hardware here, gonna throw them on, and that'll be it. Yeah. Okay, gotta do some pre-work here. On the Dodge Dakota RT bed table. I mean, it works, right? This comes with hardware for, let's just say, bigger than 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch. And since I know I need 1/2 inch, I don't need these guys. And they just need to go in there. That was real difficult. It doesn't seem like I've done all that much work. It seemed like, you know, I just had troubles getting this project accomplished, but then you go back and look at everything that I've done, and it's been a ton of work, you know, starting with coating the frame with the KBS coating kit, welding in the panels, cutting and welding in the panels, you know, completely prepping the paint frame for paints. We got the Beltec lowering leaf spring mounts, Calvert Racing split monoleafs 1-inch drop, the caltrac bars themselves, all new brake lines ran, cleaning and welding all the stuff on the rear end, welding the perches, welding the axle tubes, fabbing up the emergency brake. It still needs a little bit of work. What else do we have on here? Calvert Racing 9-way adjustable shocks, Speedway Motors brake line kit, and then lines from the stop shop from Summit Racing. Just a whole lot going on. This is the brake kit is from Power Stop Brakes, and you know, got about 1/2 inch of clearance on the front and back. So I would say these 5-inch offset wheels are perfect. We did the studs thanks to Billy knocking those thing in, and then Tommy helping me weld up the rear end. Thanks a lot for that. And then, man, it's all done. It looks great. Shocks are in place. It's nice and rigid. This thing is going to hopefully hook up really well. I've got one detail to do to like call it finished, and that's just to hook up a vent line for the differential. I also need to fill it. It's not filled. Oh yeah, and my Summit Racing diff cover with the little caps that put pressure on the main caps of the carrier housing. Yeah, we're done. We're done. I'm going to do the little things, like I said, put fluid in it and put the vent on it, but we're done. So next up is decrumifying the bed and the underneath of the truck, because it's pretty nasty. So there's some work to do there. I did measure the drive shaft, which is going to have to be, for me, 58 and 11/16 of an inch from the flange to the seal on the drive shaft. I don't really show you guys that because I recommend you call your drivetrain company if you're going to get a drive shaft made and see how they want you to measure it, because sometimes different shops want you to measure it differently. So call them before you do all that. But guys, we're done. What a heck of a project. It was worth all the headaches, all the details that I put into it, and I really think it's gonna work out in my benefit. And you know, it's a 373 gear with a track lock, so it should be beneficial for some ET. And plus, you know, just getting rid of a lot of things might help save some weight. I do think I'm going to offset the weight of the extra 40-50 pounds of the transmission by the time I'm done. So it's this, and get it back on the road as soon as possible. I'm hoping a couple months. I've got some work to do up here, And that'll be coming here soon. Hopefully it won't be as in-depth, maybe just a couple days or so. So that'll be fun, except I've got to paint the frame where I leaked fluid out everywhere. But oh well, I don't know if I showed you guys this. I got these little aluminum clamps that kind of help keep everything together and rigid. Looks good, so all right, well that's it. I'm gonna shut this one down. Thanks for following along on the 8.8 rear end project. It's been probably 10 months, 8 months, anywhere from 8 to 10 months in there. Just as I said earlier, thanks for coming along on this project. If you enjoyed the project or the other stuff that we're working on, please consider subscribing and hanging out with us. We'd love to have you as part of the community here, and we'd love to interact with you. And then we're on social media on Facebook and Instagram at the RacerX Garage. So check us out there, and we'll see if we can get this thing done by the end of the year. So, all right, that'll be it. Until next time, you know the deal. Y'all be good.